All right, good morning. Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Monday, October 6th. Thank you very much for being here, hanging out on Hoops Talk, part of the Sliwa show, Monday through Friday, starting at 8 a.m. Of course, doing every post-game show as well. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out. All right, we got a packed show today. Got a packed show today. Hopefully, everybody had a really nice weekend, got to chill, got to relax, got to enjoy a ton of different sports. Baseball kind of dominating the weekend, if I'm going to be honest with you. But this weekend was unique. It was a little bit different because we got Lakers basketball back. So we got 2 games in that we could finally get to watch, and enough talking about the team without actually getting a chance to react to how they play. So phenomenal weekend from the world of sports. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Couple of quick reminders here as we get the week started. 8 a.m. on the dot. If I could give myself a little bit of credit here, I've been on the dot here for the first week since I got back or so. I don't hear people say, Sliwa, you're on time. I just hear when they say, Sliwa, you're late. Okay, a couple things here just to kind of point out that we got lined up for the show and what we got going on for the week here. Let me first start off by saying if you could please subscribe to the channel, we'd greatly appreciate that. Of course, the goal of doing a show on YouTube every single day is try to grow the subscribers, grow the memberships, and try to get as many people here as possible to talk Lakers and NBA basketball. So if you guys don't mind, please subscribe to the channel. We'll greatly appreciate that. We'll have a busy week this week, which is kind of a weird schedule. I was looking at this yesterday while actually the Laker game was going on. I guess I just didn't realize. I know Lakers have 6 preseason games. I didn't realize they have a week off before they play their next preseason game. So this week, it's going to be a lot about, obviously topics just that are that we think are relevant, that are fluid, that are built around the NBA. But there's not going to be any games to react to. So today will probably be the only day that we're actually reacting to a couple of the games from the weekend. Let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got going on for the show. No guests today, so we'll be just hanging out for an hour here. Let me kind of throw a few things here. The overreaction, like any preseason game. We'll talk a little bit about the 2 preseason games, some things that stuck out, I guess you can say, some things that we pay a little bit more attention to, other things that shouldn't be a big deal. So I kind of like the overreaction piece of this because I think all of this is a little bit of an overreaction. 2 preseason games, what we liked, what we didn't like. I think there's an advantage of not having some of your key players right now playing in any of these games. I'll tell you what some of those advantages are. Some of those advantages are you got a lot of role players that are going to be fighting for playing time and aren't promised anything. And I thought JJ Redick said that over the weekend. What did he say that? He say it yesterday? Yeah, he said it yesterday, not after Friday's game. He said it after yesterday's game in a conversation he was having about Vando and playing time and starting lineup and all that stuff, basically saying you got to earn your playing time. So I want to spend a little time on that. I think that's an interesting conversation. Frankly, I think it's wide open for a lot of these role players to get some opportunities. Spend a little time on Jared Vanderbilt. Spend a little time on DeAndre Ayton. I thought Ayton said some stuff after the game on Friday that I was a big fan of. I want to go back and play that sound. I'm kind of trying to do the right things, come into the Lakers and trying to have the right messaging and trying to do everything he can to, show the team that he's all in, or however you want to put it. Laker Untouchables. Is there any player on this Lakers team that's, no, you can't get rid of that guy? And listen, I'm not trying to trade the farm, but I'm asking the question. Is there any role players that the Lakers have where you're really saying like, no, that guy can't go anywhere? Maybe the better question is, are there players on the roster that you'd really, really like to keep long-term? So we'll have a little bit of that discussion as well. A couple stories around the NBA. Somebody brought up something yesterday during the post-game show about how much time will this team get fully together before the preseason starts. I think that's kind of important. They might not get any time if LeBron doesn't play any of these preseason games. Quick conversation on Dalton Knecht as well. And then NBA news, do a little bit of a weekend recap. We'll hit on the NFL, Major League Baseball playoffs. And in college football, really, there wasn't much to talk about, but we'll just look at the new rankings, look at those first 5-7 teams, something along those lines. So thank you for making your way here, for hanging out on this Monday morning. And we got a lot to get into, so I'm looking forward to it. Let me take a look at some of the comments here before we get started. Okay, let's see what we got here. Let's see what we got here. Got a couple of quotes here. A couple of people chiming in. You only live once, but if you do it right, once is enough. Chris, I like that. You see, Chris, we're doing this a little bit different because I think for me, I'm trying to get AI in here so we could live for like 200 years. That's all I'm looking for. Just 200 solid years. Ocean Breeze always coming in with a good quote. Fear is your friend. It is an indicator. Sometimes it shows you what you shouldn't do. More often than not, it shows you what you should do. Interesting. Okay, I like that. Let's get a couple other people in here. Chino in the house here. Hello from Turkmenistan. If I said that properly, appreciate you being here, brother. Thank you for being here. That's kind of the beauty with YouTube. You get people from everywhere. Somebody wants to let me know where they're tuning in from. We'll give you a little bit of shout out this morning. All right, let's get started here. Let's get started on the show. Again, I'll come back to these comments as the show goes. So feel free to put any comments here, and then we'll talk about it as we go. Okay, 2 preseason games. Let me. We'll try to make this a little bit more interactive today. What kind of stood out for you guys? We got a chance Friday to see the Lakers get their asses kicked, and then we got a chance yesterday to see the Lakers lose again. I mean, obviously the result of the game is not that big of a deal. I don't think anybody's paying attention to it. To point out some of the players that did play for the opposing team, Devin Booker was in the lineup, Dylan Brooks. You had some guys from the opposing team. Yesterday, you got a chance to see Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond Green. I mean, Al Horford, they got their team, right? Every team's got a little bit different of a strategy when it comes to preseason basketball. So far for the Lakers, Luka hasn't played. Reeves played in one of the games. LeBron, I think there's probably a good chance maybe he plays in none of the games. Maybe he plays in one. We'll obviously have to wait and see. I don't think anybody knows how much LeBron's going to play, and no need for LeBron to do anything. It's going to be completely up to LeBron. But as we sit here on Monday morning on October 6th, remember the season doesn't start. The season starts 2 weeks from tomorrow. We got time before the Lakers, get out there and these games actually start. They got 4 games left in preseason. But what are some things that stood out to you over these first 2 preseason games? Was there anything specific that stood out? Was there anything that, you think would be worth a conversation? If you think so, throw it in the comments and I'll try to get to it as we go. For me, I think, a couple things stood out. I think I could look at some certain players individually and say, okay. By the way, let me say this. For all these players that are going to get any playing time in preseason, it really is an opportunity for them to kind of try to make a case for themselves. Yes, there's going to be certain players that are going to be a part of the rotation, but I think for a lot of these guys, is Dalton Knecht making a case for himself to get PT because of his preseason play, or is he hurting himself? Is Bronny helping himself, or is he hurting himself? Is Vando helping himself or hurting himself? Rui Hachimura, okay, maybe there's not all role players are created equal. There's going to be certain role players that we all just know they're going to get a lot of playing time. And then there's other role players that are kind of trying to work their way into the system, work their way into the rotation and say, okay, but take a couple looks at me and I will deliver this season for you. There were a few guys that I think we can make a case for. I won't get too much into Vando at this point. I won't get too much into Ayton at this point. I'm going to put those guys to the side. And I think they're going to be a big part of the rotation anyways. I'm going to save them for their own topic. But I think for me, there are players out there that, I watch in the preseason that I got a close eye on. Are these guys going to make a case from themselves that they definitely deserve to be a part of the rotation? JJ Redick said something after yesterday's game about earning playing time. Basically that no one's promised anything. And even guys like Vanderbilt or even some of these other guys that you feel like they're going to get their opportunities this year, I liked the term that he used of they're going to have to earn their playing time. There's a lot of guys on this roster that are in the final year of their contract. They're playing for a contract past this season. They're trying to convince their head coach that, they can be relied upon. And you might get a performance like last night from Gabe Vincent, where he dropped 16 points, where he looked really, really good. And hit, a good amount of his threes, got to the free throw line, was a little bit more aggressive. You know that that's not how it's going to be once the season starts because he's not going to have the ball in his hands. And what kind of opportunities is he going to get? But can Gabe Vincent kind of change the confidence level of some of these coaches and from Laker fans' perspective? I think that's really what you're looking for in preseason basketball. If you're trying to pay attention to, the result of the game, I think you're going to be wasting your time. If you're trying to pay attention to individual players, how the defense looks, are guys kind of standing around or are they moving the entire time? Are they making winning basketball plays? I think that's really kind of the only thing that you can pay attention to. And I think you got to just focus on it more from a perspective of a role player perspective of can they crack the rotation or make some meaningful impact in preseason games. I don't look at anything else. I would tell you in the first 2 preseason games, I look at guys like Jared Vanderbilt, maybe a little bit of Gabe Vincent because he was doing yesterday, and maybe my confidence grows in some of those players. I'd also look at some guys in the first 2 preseason games where my confidence level is going down. I look at a guy like Rui. I look at a guy like Dalton Knecht. I look at some of these other players, and you're kind of one or two ways in preseason. Are you looking better as advertised, or are you looking like, hey, you look a little bit lost? So my kind of initial thoughts in preseason, more than anything else, was it was nice to start preseason basketball again. But it's very, very difficult to pay any attention to these games and think that you're going to get true value out of it. Now, can we be sitting here when Lakers get back started in a week or so and Luka's in the lineup and Reeves is in the lineup, and now you can really kind of start seeing like, okay, hey, that makes sense, or interesting rotational move there. Okay, what does that starting lineup look like? Maybe that becomes a different conversation, but I think for the Lakers, one of the disadvantages right now is they're not playing any of their stars, and you really can't get too much out of a preseason game. So you're just kind of starting to look at some of the individual players. So a little bit of an overreaction through the first 2 preseason games. Those are the things that really kind of stuck out to me. I think the main thing also on the JJ Redick front that I mentioned, you got to earn your playing time. And I think for these guys, they should be promised nothing. Rui should not be promised a thing. Jared Vanderbilt shouldn't be promised a thing. Gabe Vincent shouldn't be promised a thing. Dalton Knecht shouldn't be. There's certain players that really, here are the guys that should be promised playing time, and you're not really going to question how many minutes they get. I don't think you're going to question Ayton, Reeves, Luka, and LeBron. Probably Marcus Smart, I'm not going to question either. Maybe if you want to put Vando into that conversation because the guy is actually a defender and everything else, and add something to the Lakers that they don't have. Those are probably the things that I pay most attention to. Okay, let's take a quick look at a couple of the comments here, and then I'll talk about a couple of these individual players as well. Let's see what people got here. All right, let's see. Emchi, thank you very much for being a member, and thank you for the super. I appreciate you chiming in with the super. If anybody's got a super, it's going to get read, but I'll do my best to get to everybody's comments either way. All right, good morning, Slee. Can't lie. Lakers defense, the scheme and effort so far looks atrocious. Besides Vando, adding Smart will help defense, but so much. Okay, so let me say this. It's really, really hard. I think if you're talking more from like a, let's call it an effort perspective, if the team, let me give you an example of yesterday. Yesterday, Lakers came out. Effort was phenomenal. End of the first quarter, I think Lakers were down by 1. They're fighting all the way through. And then the last couple of minutes, everything just kind of fell off a cliff. And Golden State goes on a 10-0 run to end the first half. And that's the only thing I could pay attention. There were sometimes defensively to start the third quarter, Lakers were awful. And I think at one point, Lakers were down 24, something along those lines. And the game against the Phoenix Suns on Friday, they were down 27, 29. I forget what the number was off the top of my head, but it was bad as well. I just say all that because the effort piece is probably the only piece that you can pay attention to and say, okay, I like that or I don't like that. I think the side about I'm focus on Marcus Smart here for a quick second. Adding Smart will help defense, but how much will it be able to help? My only question, I think, with Marcus Smart's going to be his health. Because I do think if Marcus Smart is in the lineup, he's there. He's finding ways to contribute. I think Lakers will be, I think they'll be happy with Marcus Smart, what he brings to the table. I just don't know what version of Marcus Smart anybody's going to get. I'm going to wait on the Vando piece of things because Vando was one of the highlights yesterday. So we'll do that in just a second. Let's see what else we got here. I want to see a couple more of these comments here. Marcus Smart, Vando, if he can shoot, respectable. Gary going at Bronny James here. Yeah, I kind of lost it on Friday. Bronny took 12 shots on Friday, and I kept saying to myself, I'm like, when did this guy just get the absolute green light with everything? That didn't make too much sense to me. I'm going to hold off on Peter's comment. That's about DeAndre Ayton because I'm going to come back to Ayton in just a second. Let's take a look at a couple more of these. All right, a couple of these Ayton ones. I'm going to hold on. I want to wait on those for a quick second. Gabe finally got to play in his Miami role yesterday, which was good. Yeah, I think Gabe's been one of the more disappointing players that the Lakers have had over the last couple of years. When they signed him in free agency, not that it was a blockbuster deal or anything like that, but 3 years, $11 million a year, I thought, okay, this guy's going to be able to contribute. He'll be a nice player that the Lakers have, and it just has not panned out. Yesterday, he was nice. He's had some moments with the Lakers, but nothing consistent at all. The whole last season, they were using Gabe like he's Marcus Smart or something. Yeah, I think there was some desperation last year as well, especially after they made some trades and you didn't have, you ended up trading Max Christie. I think they were kind of struggling of what to do with some of their other role players and everything else. All right. The bench is horrible. Yeah, if they don't have depth, that's going to be a problem. That's why I got one of these Laker Untouchables that kind of will lead me to some of my depth as far as another topic. This just dawned on me. Lakers know it wasn't JJ's fault. That's why they extended him. Sean, I still don't fully understand what the reason was to extend JJ Redick that quick. But if they see something and they think JJ is going to be the guy for years to come, then, that's obviously up to the Lakers from that perspective. Okay, let's move on to a couple of these other players because I know people want to talk about Vando and they want to talk about Ayton. So let's do this real quick here. Let me start here with who I start with. Start with Vando or start with Ayton? Let's go Vando. Let's just talk real quick about Jared Vanderbilt. So I was reading this article this morning, and Silver Screen and Roll they do like player grades, right? After, I don't know if they do it after every game, but they did it after this preseason game, and they were giving grades to certain players, and Vando came up. Now, just to give everyone kind of an idea of how Vando did yesterday. And Vando's box score is not why everyone should get excited and, because he shot 50% from the field or because he hit a 3 or something like that. That's not the point or the reason of why you should get excited about Vando. The reason why you should get excited about Vando is he looks healthy. And the reason why, you should get excited about Jared Vanderbilt is because Lakers don't have too many players like him. And many teams out there, including playoff teams, they want guys like Jared Vanderbilt. They want to have a player that doesn't need the ball, but can still have an impact on a game. Lakers are desperate for players like that. And maybe they got 2 this year. Maybe they got a healthy Vando that's ready to go, and we'll find out about Marcus Smart. And I think kind of the idea is use Vando as an example, Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, you need guys like this. Obviously, Finney-Smith's no longer on the roster. I think why Vando yesterday was exciting to watch him play is because he's everywhere. He's active. They're not calling any plays for him. You feel his presence defensively. Ended up with 9.7 rebounds, 4 assists. Also had 3 steals. Like I mentioned, he hit a 3 as well. What you get excited about with Jared Vanderbilt is here's a player that we can have on the floor. You don't call a play for him, but you know where he is. You keep kind of pointing it out. It's like, hey, that's a nice rebound by Vando. Hey, that's a nice somebody going through a screen like Vando did. Hey, there's Vando and Draymond Green kind of running their mouth at each other. You need a player like that. You need an enforcer like that. And for all I know, he could become the Lakers' most important role player this year. We can talk about Marcus Smart, and we could talk about Ayton. We could talk about, Jake LaRavia's addition. For all I know, Vando could become the most important role player for the Lakers this season. But last night, and just seeing him through the first two playoff games, looks healthy. He looks like he can definitely impact games. And it was just kind of great to see him all over the floor. And I think that's the thing that stood out to me most is he's everywhere. JJ had a couple of quotes I'm going to read for you guys as far as what he's done so far with the Lakers in preseason. I'll read the quotes. This is JJ postgame. He said, "I've been very impressed by just the amount of work, what he's done this summer to his game. Obviously, his body is significantly better than this time last year, even when the season ended. He's moving better. His handle is. I'd never have seen him make a Euro." He's talking about a finish that he had. He's been working on his game, and his shot is a big thing that will come. If he can be consistent three-point shooter for us, that unlocks a lot. I don't personally care about him taking threes. I mean, if I'm another team out there, I'm more than happy to see Vando take threes. I don't want to see him if I'm a Laker fan. And then one thing that was asked about, could he potentially work his way into the starting role? If you guys remember, that's kind of been my case, starting five for the Lakers. I like the idea of having Vando in the starting lineup. Do I feel like he'll probably be in there? I don't. But I like the concept of having Vando in there because it offers a little bit more balance on the defensive side for the Lakers. Here's what JJ Redick said about Vando's starting lineup. He said, "We started 24 lineups last year. The team that started, or the lineup that started this season or last season for us, started 8 games together. And we made a change. So I'm, of course, open to things, of course. And like I said, everything's going to have to be earned." So basically what he's saying about Vando, he's disruptive. He plays hard. His conditioning is good. He'll look into opportunities potentially from a starting lineup perspective, but everything's going to have to be earned. So I think, listen, if there's some things that you could take away from the first two preseason games, maybe take that away. Take away that Vando has been a highlight, and Vando can actually potentially have impact this upcoming season if he's healthy. And I think that's obviously what a lot of people are hoping for, and certainly myself as well. I'm going to come back to Vando, and I'll read some of these comments, but I kind of put both players together, Vando and Ayton discussion. It's our first chance to see DeAndre Ayton over the weekend. That was the first time we've got to see DeAndre in a Lakers jersey where he's actually playing a game. I'm going to play a quote for you guys, or I'm going to play a video for you guys. So we all know how important Ayton's going to be. I mean, if you guys want to lump the two together, I mean, imagine if Vando's having a really a career type of year, and imagine if Ayton's really having an impact for the Lakers. Doesn't it feel like that kind of changes the entire trajectory for the Lakers and how much more of a dangerous team they can be, how much easier it makes the life of LeBron and Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, how it could potentially kind of balance things for the Lakers if he is in the starting lineup. If he's not, we'll have to wait and see. By the way, speaking of the starting lineup, if those who are sold on Rui Hachimura in the starting lineup, he didn't look, you know what Rui looked like over these first two preseason games? He looked like a lot of the other games that we watched with Rui. Oh, is he on the floor? Is he not on the floor? I mean, it didn't look special at all. And for somebody that's supposed to be a lot more aggressive this year, I didn't see it. It's preseason. I'm overreacting, but I didn't see it at all. Let me play this here real quick. Ayton is, of course, supposed to be a key piece this year. A lot of people are talking about DeAndre Ayton and the type of impact that, obviously everybody's hoping that he can have for the Lakers. He had a little bit different of perspective on his role this year. Take a listen. I mean, I respect it, but I think he'll have to be a little bit more selfish, maybe is the right way to put it. But take a listen to Ayton.
Yeah, I wanted to show the team I'm more committed on the defensive end more than the offensive end, in a way. Like I say from the get-go, I'm not really here for numbers. I'm just here for whatever the Lakers really want me to do. And, main objective is really protecting that rim and closing out possessions. And I had fun, man, just, blocking some shots today and, just being that anchor. Seeing how the guys are responding to me, just terminology and stuff like that, just to get out and just be out in our offense and create from our defense. So it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, I wanted to show the team.
I'm going to play the beginning just for a quick second again. He's trying to come off as unselfish as he possibly can for the Lakers. Just take a listen.
I'm more committed on the defensive end more than the offensive end, in a way. Like I say from the get-go, I'm not really here for numbers. I'm just here for whatever the Lakers really want me to do.
I respect it. Listen, maybe you guys are a fan of Ayton. Maybe you're trying to figure out, hey, is this guy going to be able to work out? Is he the right player for the Lakers? I mean, we'll kind of, we'll wait and see. But I respect that clip because, and for those that maybe didn't hear it, basically what he's saying is, I'm not here for the numbers. I'll do whatever it takes. And however he can contribute for the Lakers, that's what he wants. Now, there's kind of some positives and negatives in that. Let me tell you the positives of DeAndre Ayton. What you're hoping for from Ayton is mentally that he's in a place where, hey, I'm just here to contribute. Whatever I can do for the Lakers, I'm here from a team perspective. I understand who's on the team. I get it. It's Luka, it's LeBron, it's AR. We got a lot of guys that can put the ball in the bucket and have offensive contributions. At the same time, I think as the season progresses here, what I'm hoping from DeAndre Ayton is Ayton also kind of puts himself in a position where we're having conversations about feeling DeAndre Ayton's impact. We're having conversations about, wow, did you see Ayton again? Ayton had another 15-15 game. Again, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you that he's got to be Giannis Antetokounmpo or Nikola Jokic, because I think, obviously there's nobody in the world that's as good as some of these, those elite centers in the NBA. But can he have an impact where it was such a glaring hole for the Lakers last season? Can Ayton be one of those players for the Lakers as the season progresses that you just kind of start respecting his role on the team and other teams start having to game plan a little bit for DeAndre Ayton, and Ayton's at the right place at the right time, and the perfect lob is coming his way from Luka, or LeBron is finding him, or they're running actual offensive sets for him. Somebody blows by Austin Reeves. Well, there isn't an easy path to the basket. Jaden McDaniels, I remember after game one saying, I'd get past a couple of guys, and then I realized I was the tallest guy on the floor, or Lakers didn't have anybody as tall as me. So I just get to the basket and do whatever I wanted, so that guys can't have that free pass anymore, that free lane like they've had in the past. And Ayton can have more of an impact from those perspectives. So, I love the quote because it's Ayton clearly showing, like, whatever you guys need from me, I'm here for the team. You want that from him. But I think you're also going to want a little bit more selfishness from DeAndre Ayton. I think you're going to want him to be aggressive. I think you're going to want DeAndre Ayton to be, I think he can be more impactful by also trying to be the player that he was supposed to be coming out, as the number one pick in the overall draft. So, part of my takeaways over the weekend, I thought Vando was a really good player. And I thought Ayton, no question about it, was having phenomenal impact, not even just from on the floor, but kind of some of the things that he was trying to say, and certainly what his vision is for the Lakers and what his vision is going to be for this team. So good stuff there, I thought, from both Vando and both from Ayton. Maybe Ayton a little bit more from his actual quotes that he was having there. But I'm going to take a look at some of the comments here, and then we'll keep things started here. I start a couple of these comments, so let me take a look at what some of the people were saying here. Slee, not impressed with Ayton yet. I'm thinking Luka will make him look better. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I will say after the first game, and he only got, I think, 2 looks, I was frustrated. That was before hearing his quote post-game. I was frustrated, like, Ayton, call for the ball. JJ, make sure this guy gets the ball. I mean, all these other guys are not playing, and he has a couple of points. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yesterday, I thought the Lakers kind of went to him a little bit earlier. I think the idea was, let's get him some looks early on. I thought the Lakers were doing that. But I think overall, Peter, you're right. At the end of the day, Ayton is going to eat because he's playing with Luka and LeBron, because there's a lot of attention going to other players, because there's attention going to Austin Reeves. That's what's going to make Ayton the best version of himself. He'll be the best version of himself if mentally he's not the guy that he was in Portland, that he's committed to the Lakers and committed to basketball and committed to winning. That's obstacle number one. And then I think obstacle number two just comes down to all these other guys are going to set me up. I just got to be at the right place at the right time. So I think, yes, to add to your point there. Smokey says, I'm happy with Ayton. Got his paint touches early in his second game. Good for JJ to recognize that. Yeah, that's also part of the coaching staff too. You got to get this guy, make sure that this guy is obviously in a position to win. Let's get another one in here. Link, Vando needs to start, stood out, and Ayton is looking good. It's funny. I think the Vando piece for me, I just, if I'm just looking at the first two preseason games and I'm comparing the two players, Vando and Rui Hachimura, which one can have more impact for the Lakers to start the game? Isn't it Vando? Like, I think if Rui gets the start, it's probably more because he's been a starter for the Lakers. Maybe they don't want to change things. Maybe they want to make sure Rui's still engaged and not coming off the bench if that affects him mentally or something like that. But if you're talking about from a basketball perspective, make a case for me that it doesn't make more sense to have Vando in the starting lineup. By the way, maybe Vando's in the starting lineup. Maybe he's not. Maybe Marcus Smart's healthy enough. He gets in the starting lineup. Maybe Rui's in the starting lineup. But to just have Vando in the backcourt, you feel like you got already enough rebounding with Vando, with LeBron, with Ayton, and with Luka. All four of those guys rebound. It adds a little balance on the defensive side. You don't have to have Luka and Austin Reeves in your backcourt trying to guard guys. Luka can move more to one of those wing players or a player that, somebody doesn't think, I guess, the worst player on the floor for the opposing team. Luka's big enough to guard guys that are bigger than him or his size. Doesn't it make more sense, or am I crazy here? By the way, I could say all that and none of it can happen, but I feel like for me, it makes more sense. I feel like that's, it would balance out that Lakers rotation. But we'll see what happens. Maybe Lakers are going to be kind of stuck in their ways. I hope they're not stuck in their ways, but that could easily happen as well. Okay, I'm going to look at some more comments here. I know we got some good comments coming in, rolling in, so I'm going to do that in just a second. Before I do, let's give a shout out to our main partner here. Thank you to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. I got a great story to tell. I love when he tells me individual stories that happened with him and the firm that I could share with you guys. They're injury attorneys. They could help anybody in the state of California. He's been a partner on this channel since I started the show, since I started going Monday through Friday. And he's been a partner with me when I was on radio as well. So you can kind of see his loyalty and our relationship that we have together. Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Tell you a little bit about what they do when they're in the courtroom. Just over a month ago, an auto insurance company made a $1.25 million offer to one of Brad's clients whose case was going to trial in Palm Springs. These insurance companies want to give you the least amount of money possible. That's where a guy like Brad Wallace steps into play and says, no, let's actually give my client what they're worth. After Brad Wallace selected the jury, delivered his opening statement, the insurance company decided to pay Brad's full $2 million demand before the first witness was called to the stand. And that's what Brad Wallace does. That's what they're accustomed to. That's their reputation in the industry. And that's what he can do for you. If you're in a serious injury or wrongful death case, whatever the case is, give Brad Wallace a call or go to our website that we created, wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. By doing that, you at least give yourself an opportunity to get expert advice in the industry. And that's Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. So shout out to them. Thank you, everybody that's supporting our partners. And I appreciate you guys obviously doing that. Okay, let's go back to some of the comments here. I know we got a lot of people kind of rolling in with some thoughts on the weekend games and some of the topics that I had. All right, let's see what we got here. I like how Ayton looks. I like Vando's energy, but we need better auxiliary pieces. By the way, if people are telling me that I don't like the role players the Lakers have, or I don't have the talent, or I don't like the talent that the Lakers have, I'm not here to argue that. I mean, let me just kind of go up and down some of these players, role players for the Lakers. Ayton, obviously, it's a big season for him. I mean, I don't have to sit here and tell you it's going to be a big season for him. And I don't think it's crazy for me to say his success, whether he has success or he doesn't, the Lakers kind of go with how Ayton goes. I don't think that's a stretch to say that. Vando, I think we all like. Rui has moments, but, I also don't think, Rui has moments, but there are also plenty of moments you don't feel Rui's presence. Again, just talking about some of the role players. LaRavia, well, let's wait and see. I'm actually kind of excited about Jake LaRavia. I think the more talent that's on the floor, the better for Jake LaRavia. Let's just kind of more of the role players. Gabe Vincent, Jackson Hayes, Dalton Knecht. There isn't this crazy rotation that you're looking at and you're saying to yourself, damn, Lakers got as much depth as all these other teams in the West. That's not going to be the Lakers' strength unless some of these guys really step up. Okay, let's get a couple more of these here. It's so not Rui. Okay, I think we're talking about that. Let's see what we got here. Ayton, Hayes, and Vando all hustled back on defense after hitting the floor. Yeah, and you got to be a fan of energy guys, right? Vando sets the tone. That's a great point right there, too. That's a really, really good point right there of just how Vando can have an impact. It could be just a tone setter, I guess you can call it. Let's take a look at a couple more of these here. How about Rui getting the start because he's the best shooter on the team? Okay, let's kind of pause there for a quick second. How many looks is like, how much offense do you need when you have Reeves, who's going to get looks, Luka, that's going to be 70% of the offense, LeBron, who's going to get looks, Ayton, who's going to get opportunities? Do you really need another offensive player that, rounds out your starting five? Or do you want some balance? Because, listen, the idea and the concept of winning games 118 to 120 doesn't sound like a good concept for me. All right, let's get a look here. Look at a couple more here, and then we'll start getting into our other comments here. Let's see. Luka's having auditions this year. Spacing Slee, it's not always about looks and attempts. It's true. Listen, I'll tell you one thing, Vando's not going to give a starting lineup. He's not going to give him any spacing. And, we've talked about this. If I'm on another team, I'm giving him 15 feet. And if Vando wants to start firing up threes, then I will take my chances. Because every shot that Vando takes means Luka didn't take a shot, means LeBron didn't take a shot, means AR didn't take a shot, and it means Ayton probably didn't get a close shot around the basket. So I don't really disagree from that perspective. Okay, let's kind of keep moving on here. I want to hit on a couple of the topics that I have here. So I hit on Vando, hit on Ayton, hit on some of these other players. I was going to do a video on Friday. I was going to do a video on Saturday. I ended up not doing it. Basically gave myself the day off. I was going to do a video on Saturday, and my video was going to be about Dalton Knecht. And, lo and behold, we got another preseason game, and we got another chance to look at Dalton Knecht. Can I ask? I'm gonna throw this out there to, people who are watching the show right now, and if you want to put it in the comments later because you ended up joining later. Can I ask those who are out there, what are their thoughts about Dalton Knecht at this point? Do you got confidence in Dalton Knecht? Knecht yesterday, he struggled in the first game, and then yesterday did have 12 points, but again, 3 of 11 from the field, and the guy clearly just struggling to find his shot. Didn't make it happen in Summer League as well, at least in Vegas. Last couple of months last year as well. But now you guys feel about your confidence level in Dalton Knecht, but mine is cratering. I'm losing more and more confidence in Dalton Knecht, and just watching little things too. Seeing him on the floor, I don't think he knows where to be. He's not constantly moving the way he should be moving. Somebody mentioned yesterday in the post-game show that, hey, well, that's on coaching. How come coaching isn't putting him in the right place at the right time? Okay, you can be making a case there. But as I sit here this morning, man, I have a very difficult time watching Dalton Knecht and having some confidence that this guy is going to be that number 17 pick that the Lakers drafted, that everybody thought was the steal of the draft after the Lakers got him, that started the season last year having a couple of games where he's putting up over 30 points a game. I'm having a difficult time thinking that Dalton Knecht is going to go back to that version that he was early in the season. I feel like it's in his head. And I also feel like there's other teams that obviously properly adjusted to him, and he hasn't been able to adjust back. If you kind of look at his first 2 preseason games, when you have so many key players that are out for the Lakers, these are moments where you want guys like Dalton Knecht to kind of get his run, get his minutes, get his shots up, and then hopefully build some confidence off of it. I don't know if he's building his confidence off of it. I don't know if that's happening. He's not an efficient shooter, which I think is definitely that portion of it is frustrating. When you have a player like that, it certainly doesn't feel like he's going to be the player that we thought 9 or 10 months ago, at least not with the Lakers. So anyways, I just wanted to lob that in on Dalton Knecht because that was part of my notes as well. And that piece of it has definitely kind of has completely gone away from the team as far as his role and maybe his confidence level. Dave says that trade situation last season messed up his confidence. Let us know how JJ used them. So is that it? Is that just going to be Dalton's story that he got traded and then the trade got rescinded and he was never able to recover? And by the way, you're not the only one that thinks that. No confidence in DK and his trade value is gone. Dalton needs a change of scenery. Another wasted pick, talking about Dalton. Yeah, I mean, think of Jalen Hood-Schifino, some of these other players these last couple of years. And listen, there were also drafts Lakers made. Max Christie was obviously a great draft pick. He just happened to be a part of that trade. Knecht has no trade value right now, so if he wants to stay a Laker, he's doing himself that favor. So, one of my topics here, and I think Westwood, this is a good transition to my next topic. One of my topics I have here was Laker Untouchables. And you kind of look at a lot of these Laker players. The point that I was trying to make with Untouchables, I don't think there's a player that's untouchable on this Lakers roster, right? Get off of the key guys. There's no player that's untouchable. And the reason why I'm making that point is I think it kind of shows how the depth for the Lakers is a question mark. And hopefully I'm wrong on that. Hopefully, a lot of these players do show that, no, we got a lot of value. But if you're the Lakers, man, are you not praying and hoping Dalton Knecht has a good first 3 months of the season? Are you not praying and hoping that Gabe Vincent has a first good 3 months of the season? That go down the list, that Rui Hachimura. I mean, guys, they got so many players that are on expiring contracts that you're almost desperate. And it kind of puts JJ in a weird spot. You can't play guys just because you're trying to pump up their draft value, or their trade value. That's not his job. JJ's job is to obviously get as many players as he can, as many wins as he can, and as many guys on the floor that are contributing. But if, hypothetically, Dalton Knecht, not a good first 3 months of the season, Gabe Vincent, not a good 3 months, Rui Hachimura, nothing special. You're starting to now see that the moves that you're trying to make to improve your roster before you get to the NBA trade deadline, how much value will your players have by the time you get closer to that? And that's a real, I think, concern if you're the Lakers. So kind of trying to figure out, maybe this is one of those things where Luka can create a lot more. He can make guys look a lot better than they really are. That's kind of what you're hoping for. Okay, let me take a look at a few more of these. Trade rattled DK. Probably just me. DK didn't play that bad last night. You know what it is? It's more just you got to be efficient. So if you have 12 points and it took you 11 shots to get there, that's not a good night. Not that he played awful. That got to the free throw line a couple times, hit his free throws, whatever the case is. But the big thing with a lot of scorers and shooters, is it efficient? You know, if a guy gets 35 points in a game, but he took 30 shots, that's not a good game. If a guy gets 25 points and he took 10 shots, 11 shots, got to the free throw line, that's a good game. It was efficient. For DK, I think, you know, maybe any shot that goes up for him, you're happy, but 3 for 11 is not and 12 points is not, you're not going to walk away kind of changing the way you think about DK. Let's get a couple more of these things. I think he'll be fine. Okay, listen, this is the first one where somebody's got some confidence in. He overworked during the offseason and needs to recover, or maybe I'm just too optimistic. It's okay to be optimistic, but I would tell you that not a lot of people, I think, feel that way about Dalton Knecht or don't feel that confident about him. All right, let's get a few more in here. He needs a fresh start somewhere. I was saying that a lot last year as well, or in the offseason. I do think it would benefit him. I do think also playing for a team where there's a lot of good defenders around him and he could do what he does best, I think would also be beneficial to him. Let me read a couple more. Knecht is only going to be good when we trade him and he plays against us. You might be right about that. Does that always happen? Dalton got figured out. Press up on him. He's not a good movement shooter. He was an on-ball guy all his career, but he's not that in the NBA. It's a good point. It's a good point. You know, I think there were adjustments made. You know, when this is what happens in the NBA or in any sport or in any business, people are going to try to find, what are your weaknesses? If you're having success, people want to find and expose your weaknesses. Dalton Knecht was having such a great start to the season last year that he became part of a scouting report. Now teams were walking into games saying, okay, here's what we got to do against LeBron. Yep, AD's this, that. Hey, this Dalton Knecht guy, this rookie for the Lakers, he's also having a lot of success. What are we going to do against him? And I think that's kind of what, what obviously started with Dalton Knecht, and teams started paying attention to him and started exposing him, started making sure, where does he like the ball? Where does he like shooting from? How does he like getting to the basket? How does he like shot creation? They started kind of slowly taking all that away. And then once a couple teams have success, the rest of the teams are going to say, cool, let's see what this team did against him. Let's continue to do that until he figures out a solution. All right. Let me see here. A lot of good comments. I love when I could look at these comments and, you know, a lot of people obviously got a lot of opinions, but it helps with, you know, getting some of these topics as well. In Luka, we trust. There's going to be a lot of trust, hope, however you want to look at it, in Luka's hands. Real question. Are we running screens or anything for DK or Jake? Got to build confidence. Wayne says that. Yeah, listen, can you run a couple of plays for him? Sure. I get that. I understand that. I'm sure that, you know, that can help build some confidence as well. The one thing I will say, there are a lot of shooters out there that just find ways to get shots because they're constantly moving. DK, I see him just staring at the ball too much. Whoever's dribbling the ball, I see that way too much, and I don't think that's, I don't think that's beneficial. All right, let's keep going here. Let me get one more in here, and then I got a couple other things I want to get into. AR is a stone cold scorer that can put the ball in the hole. Don't sleep on AR. Is he the best fit? That can be argued. Austin brings that pressure. All right. I guess people are having some conversations there about, you know, Reeves in general. You guys can feel free to have them. So I would say this, and this kind of will cap off most of my Laker conversation for the day. I got a couple things on NBA news, and then there's a lot to get into in the weekend recap. I guess the one thing that, I'll walk away from these last couple of, or these first two preseason games, you can't really take much from these two preseason games, but I did see some highlights from some individual players that you should feel good about or feel confident about or be optimistic about. And then I saw some other players where I think the concerns that you had before are still there. I'm not going to get sold on Gabe Vincent in one preseason game. I'm also not going to get, not going to get completely sold, or, Rui's going to have a bad season because he had two preseason games. But I do think there's some things that you can take away and you can walk away from the first 2 preseason games that to be mindful of as we get ready and finally get closer to the regular season starting. The biggest thing is going to be get your main players back, and all of a sudden we're going to have a better idea of what this team is and what it looks like. Okay, I got a couple things on the NBA that I'm going to get into here. We got about 10 minutes left in the show, and I got NBA, got weekend recap, so I'm going to kind of start looking at those here real quick. If you guys have some questions, some thoughts, anything that you guys want to hit on before I get out of, before I leave the show, throw them in right now. Feel free to throw them in. And then as we, obviously as the show progresses, I'll take a look at the comments as we keep going as well. A couple things in the NBA that I want to throw out there. The Athletic put out an article. We could look at this together. I think it's actually a good article, and a lot of ESPN, the Athletic. I mean, LA Times. They're all kind of doing NBA related stuff right now. Kind of big picture scope on the season. I'm going to share this with everybody here. The Athletic, basically what they had is one question mark for each team in the NBA right now. I'm going to get to the Lakers here in a second, but I think this is going to be their, I guess their biggest question around the Lakers, which I think is a fair question, is will DeAndre Ayton make all the difference? So let me read this here for everybody. The Lakers, more than anything else, needed a starting center, and in Ayton, they got a talented one, but he's got to prove he can impact winning at the highest level again. I've mentioned this to you guys, and by the way, everybody's got a Phoenix. Can Mark Williams stay healthy? Obviously, the guy the Lakers almost got. Golden State, how will Jonathan Kuminga fit in? Portland, who's the backup point guard? Utah, could they find their young star? Okay, so everybody's got a question. For the Lakers, it's DeAndre Ayton. I've said this before, and I don't think I'm being dramatic when I say it. I think the Lakers go as Ayton goes, because I already got a pretty good idea what some of the other key players are going to be. I know what Reeves is going to be. I know what Luka is going to be. LeBron, okay, that's a fair question because it's his 23rd season in the NBA, but I got a pretty good idea what LeBron's going to be. Ayton is the question mark. Is Ayton a kind of fringe all-star? Okay, maybe not an all-star, but is he putting up? Are there a lot of nights where you're like, damn, that's another 18 and 12 night from DeAndre Ayton? Wow, Ayton had a nice impact on. If Ayton has one of those seasons, then we could be talking about a completely different year for the Lakers. So I think it's a fair question. Of all the questions that surrounds the Lakers, will DeAndre make all the difference? We'll find out. All right, some other teams. What are some of the questions with some of the other teams? Dallas, can they score enough? Obviously, they're waiting for Kyrie. Houston, how will they handle the hole at point guard? Memphis, can they count on Ja Morant? So that gives you an idea from some of these other teams out there. Okay, a couple other things around the NBA that I'm going to hit on here real quick. Let's see what we got here. Jonathan Kuminga. So, by the way, it's kind of funny. I mean, Kuminga got a lot of pub this summer because of his situation with the Warriors. There's an article already out there. Warriors expected to make Jonathan Kuminga available for trade on January 15th. The mounting expectation as a result is that the Warriors will make Kuminga available in the trade market once he becomes eligible to be dealt on January 15th to see what sort of return is out there for the 22-year-old before the February 5th trade deadline. This is coming from Mark Stein on his Substack. I know there have been a few people that were reporting that there's still interest from Sacramento, from Phoenix. There's a couple teams out there that still have interest in Jonathan Kuminga, but it's almost, it's interesting that I'm sure there was an agreement with them. Hey, take this money. We'll kind of favor the contract towards you, but take the money, stay here for a couple of months, and then we're going to trade your ass. And whatever we can get for you, we're going to try to get. And by trading you, they're going to, obviously there's value in Jonathan Kuminga out there. He's a young player, just 22 years old. But isn't that kind of wild? As soon as he just signs his deal, the contract or the story's already out there. They're like, yeah, he's there. He did sign, but he's only going to get traded as, obviously this moves along. They did make that trade, obviously, for Jimmy Butler. They're trying to take advantage of a win now strategy. I understand it. But I also never felt like Jonathan Kuminga got the right opportunities with the Golden State Warriors, and it was kind of weird the way they treated him there. One other NBA story I got, and then we'll get into the weekend recap, and we'll read some of your comments. I don't know if you guys saw this. I think is interesting. The NBA in Europe. So this is a NBA Europe targets 2027 launch, 16 teams, semi-open format. So I'm going to read this. This is coming from Basket News. The earliest start would be October 2027. Our vision is a semi-open competition with 16 teams, 12 permanent franchises, and 4 qualifying from other competitions with the Basketball Champions League organized by FIBA as a central pathway. This was a spokesperson that's kind of representing this NBA Europe concept. The NBA is, look, this is going to happen, and we know how big Europe is, how much it's influenced the NBA, and obviously how important it is to the NBAs. The biggest stars right now in the NBA. Go ahead, Luka, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Nikola Jokic. Go down the list. See how many stars are from Europe. This is a real thing. This is definitely going to be happening, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how this could potentially impact the NBA, impact how it all kind of how Europe becomes more and more. Are there players in the NBA that are kind of washed towards the end of their career and decide, I'm going to go play for the NBA Europe League out there? So I think it's going to be fascinating. We got a ways to go, but keep an eye out for that. They're trying to launch it by 2027. All right, let's get into the weekend recap. As I get into the weekend recap, I'm going to read a couple of, see if there's anything that you guys are putting out there from a comments perspective. Weekend recap, of course, is brought to you by Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa, WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. He can help anybody in the state of California. Let's see what we got here. Kuminga alone off the bench is what Lakers want. Kuminga would be great. I'd be a huge fan of Kuminga. Just, there isn't a path to get him. I'm happy Ayton got bought out and didn't work out elsewhere. He would have been an option. Otherwise, he would have been an option. Yeah, he basically chose the Lakers. He obviously could have gone to other teams. So the fact that he was able to, obviously be here it's that he chose the Lakers helps. Fringe all-star, be real. He just got bought out for a reason. Yeah, you can have players get bought out, but here's I think the beauty with Ayton. The beauty with Ayton is he's not 34 years old. He's 26 years old. He was the number 1 overall pick. He gets to play pick and roll with Luka Doncic. He gets to be on a team with LeBron and Austin Reeves where there's so much attention going to other players. Again, I don't think he's going to be an all-star. My point is, can he have games where it looks like, hey, this guy has kind of all-star play in him? We'll have to wait and see. And I'm not trying to overhype Ayton. What I'm trying to tell you is that he's obviously going to be a key piece for the Lakers. There's no other way to put it. He's going to be a very, very important piece for the Lakers. Okay, let's take a look here. Couple things, weekend recap. Let's start here. I'll do baseball last. Let's kind of start with the NFL. So yesterday, obviously, some NFL games. Obviously, no game for the Rams because they played over the weekend. What are the games that stood out to me? The Broncos-Eagles, kind of a phenomenal game. Shouldn't have been. The Broncos down, I think, 17-3, scored 18 points in the fourth quarter, 18 unanswered. They shocked the Eagles in Philadelphia. Eagles suffered their first loss. They win 21-17. The Cardinals blow I think were they up 21-0, I want to say. No, I don't think they were up 21-0, but Titans hadn't won a game all year. Cardinals find a way to lose. That was an interesting game. Buccaneers are now 4-1. They beat the Seahawks 38-35. Commanders Chargers. I actually watched most of that game. I'm a big fan of Jaden Daniels. I just enjoy watching him play. So I wanted to watch that. Looked like Chargers were going to dominate the game. They're up 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. 27 unanswered points for the Commanders. Commanders win that one. And then the Bills randomly lose to the Patriots. They lose their first game of the year. So no more undefeated teams left in the NFL. College football. Remember when I said that Penn State was going to beat UCLA by 64 points? UCLA beat Penn State. How the hell did that happen? Penn State out of the top 25, just top 5 schools right now in the new AP top 25. Ohio State number 1, Miami number 2, Oregon number 3, Ole Miss number 4, Texas A&M number 5. So those are your top 5 teams in college football. Some pretty good games, not as good as the following weekend. And then the last thing that I'm just going to lob in here, Major League Baseball obviously started the second round of the playoffs. And we'll kind of go back to Saturday here for a quick second. Brewers all over the Cubs. They win 9-3. They're now up 1-0. They're going to have their game 2 later today. It's a 6:08 first pitch. So we're going to have 2 games tonight. Dodgers and the Phillies, Cubs and the Brewers. So keep that one in mind. But just going back to Saturday, Brewers all over the Cubs. Cubs did something interesting. They started their main starter, Boyd, I think is their main starter. 3 days rest, terrible recipe. They got shellacked right out the gate. They had no chance in that game. I don't think, if you guys go look, any starter in the postseason on 3 days rest, not a good idea. Their ERAs are terrible. They certainly don't look fresh. Cubs took a chance there, and it certainly bit them. By the way, why didn't you just hold them off for 1 game? Then you could got him 5 days full rest for this game 2 matchup, but they didn't do that. Yankees and the Blue Jays. Damn, look at Toronto. Toronto might be my new favorite team. 10-1. Blue Jays beat the Yankees on Saturday, and then yesterday followed it up 13-7. So they've put up 23 runs in 2 games on the New York Yankees. Yankees are down 0-2. Let me get the Tigers and the Mariners in here as well. This has been the best series so far, by far, in this second round. Tigers beat the Mariners 3-2 in 11 innings on Saturday, and then yesterday, while I was watching Lakers preseason, I was also watching this game. Mariners beat the Tigers 3-2. Just a phenomenal game. First playoff win for the Seattle Mariners in 24 years. That is wild. Their first playoff game in 24 years. So those were the 3 games, the 3 series. And then I think maybe I'm wrong on Philly, but I think probably the 2 best teams. I don't know. I know they don't have Wheeler, and not having Wheeler changes the Phillies dramatically, but they still have a lot of good players. Saturday evening-ish. Was it evening? Yeah, I think it was sort of evening. Maybe mid-afternoon, whatever the case is. Dodgers take game 1, 5-3 over the Phillies. Watching that game, and I pretty much watched every pitch of that game. Kind of fascinating to watch because Phillies get 3 pretty early on Shohei, and then Shohei just completely locks down. And it was weird watching him early. He just, I don't know, wasn't using his full array of pitches. I felt like he was very predictable. Almost felt like he was only using 2 pitches, and Philly was all over him. And then he just kind of settled down, and he just was unhittable. Ended up giving how many innings did Shohei go in? I don't know how many is he. At least 6. I know he went at least 6. Let me just take a look here. I want to take a quick look at. Went 6 innings, gave up the 3 earned runs. It's his first postseason pitching performance, and it's on the road in Philly, and he was phenomenal. 9 Ks, just incredible. And I think you could look at, this game. For me, the way I look at it, I think Philly is just, they're just wildly outmatched. And I think anybody facing the Dodgers the rest of the way are going to be wildly outmatched. They just got too many weapons. And, watching the game, it's not even a matter of, with the Dodgers, the one thing that I noticed the most, it has less to do with Shohei, Mookie, and Freddie, because there's going to be days that those guys don't hit. But the difference, I think, with the Dodgers and so many other teams out there is someone's going to come through. So Shohei could have a night at the plate where he struggles, and maybe Freddie Freeman doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and Will Smith's trying to come back, whatever it is. Somebody's going to come through. And a lot of the times it is Teoscar Hernandez who had the big 3-run homer. But the problem with the Dodgers is even if you keep their main guys quiet for a night, somebody else is going to come through because they have so many other elite players, good players, guys that know their role. And that happened on Saturday. I actually thought that was a must-win game for Philadelphia in game 1. And I know now you're going to say the same thing about game 2. I thought Philly had to get the first game. I actually thought Philly had to win the first 2 games to really feel like, okay, they got control of the series. Now they're backpedaling. Now all the pressure is on Philadelphia when they play later today. And, to be honest with you, I don't see a path for any team in Major League Baseball to compete with this. I just don't. Blake Snell will get the ball on the mound later today. We know that. You're going to eventually use Yamamoto. They have Tyler Glass now, who's making $130 million coming out of the bullpen because there's no room for him to start. I don't know what their game plan is with Kershaw. So anyways, let's leave that as it is. But they're also getting the proper amount of rest in between. They only played 1 and then had, obviously a game that they had to take off. Now all of a sudden Sasaki is coming in to kind of close out games. They're not even using all these bullpen guys that they paid money for in the offseason because A, they probably don't trust them, or B, they just have other arms that they can go to. You could slice and dice this thing any way that you want. I think Philly's a really, really good team, and I think they're wildly overmatched. So that just kind of shows you how good, obviously the Dodgers are and what this means for this upcoming series. Okay, that's everything I got there from that perspective in regards to the weekend recap and everything else. Let me take a look at a couple of the comments here, and then we are going to call it a day. Best ever. Yeah, I don't think there's any argument to that. I really don't. And I think it's, how do I put this? Like, anyone who argues against that, I think it's a dumb argument. Like, I don't think you can make an argument against that. So, I mean, I'm not watching baseball for 50 years, but I've been watching baseball since the mid 90s, and I've never seen anything remotely close to that. So anyways, that gives you guys a little bit of perspective of, obviously just kind of my thoughts over the weekend and everything else. And I'm looking forward to obviously watching a lot of these games this upcoming weekend. And, a lot of these games today. You got a Monday Night Football coming on today as well. All right, let me see a couple more comments here. 3 and 4 against. Yeah, I just don't think it means anything. I just don't think it means anything. I really don't. I think, they have the ability to pace themselves during the season. And I think it would have been idiotic if they were trying to win 110 games during the regular season. It just doesn't make any sense. They just paced themselves, got to the point where it's the postseason and everyone's available. I genuinely don't think it means anything what the regular season was versus the postseason. You can make 2 teams out of their roster. 2 teams out of their roster. That's the truth. Okay, that's all I got. I appreciate you guys. It's a good question. I don't know why they're playing the games. They might as well not. No, I know. Listen, I know anything can happen. I understand that. But my point is that the regular season, I don't think you can comp to the postseason. All right. I appreciate you guys hanging out today. Show kind of flew by, if I'm being honest with everybody. I love doing the show with you guys. And I'm back on tomorrow morning, starting at 8 a.m. Looking forward to doing this again and reacting to obviously what's going on in sports, primarily the Lakers and the NBA. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. And we will take it from there. Thank you, everybody.